Hey Ivan, just wanted to give you a quick video so you kind of understand what's going on. Basically, this piece here is still pushed away from that wall. So originally we had this entire piece of granite as an L shape angled out, which meant that it was hitting in this corner here and had a space here, which gave us too much overhang there. What they ended up doing is we had agreed that we were going to separate this seam here. So they separated that seam and they left this piece of granite in place. So when they did that, they went outside and they cut along this back wall and they cut an angle here. When they did that, it changed it from a square piece to an oblong shape, which turned it, I'm going to turn the camera to kind of show, it turned it this way. So now it went this way into the gap, which made that a nice flush line. Slid over like we needed to, but now from here to here we have 30 inches, and from here to here we have 30 5/8. So there's a little bit more than half an inch. I'll pull the tape measure out to show you real quick. So we're just under 30 inches there. And we're just over 30 inches there. I'm trying to keep it nice and square, but it's a little hard. We're just over 30 and a half. So obviously this piece is nice and square and the stove will slide along there perfectly like it's supposed to. And it's got your 20, I believe it's 25 and a half inches out. Yeah, it's 25 and a half out. This piece over here does have that 25 and a half now, so that part's correct, but it's angled that way. So either the stove will go in along this line as it's supposed to, and on this line it'll end up having the stove end here with half an inch or 5/8 of an inch there, and then the angle gap. Or I can turn the entire stove at an angle, but then the whole stove is at an angle, and you'll see the gap above it. You'll see more of a gap here, and it's going to have the same problem to where the corner is going to hit here, and it's going to stick out here, kind of like the granite did. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and I'm going to slide out this piece of granite to where it needs to be at 30 inches front and back, and you'll be able to see the gap here. But while I have this how it is, I want to again show you the gap back there, and then we'll show you the back of it in a second. Okay, so I have slid the piece into the corner so it's flush against the wall like it was originally, and we now have 30 inches going across and 30 inches going across. It's actually 30 1/8, so it's a little bit less, but like I said, they did cut the angle along the back. But either way, the stove would fit in here. It's fairly square and it's the right size. But if you look here, we now have a slight gap here, which is that gap that used to be here is now here. And then as you go down the line, the gap gets bigger. So what the guys did to make this work and leave this piece in place so they didn't have to mess with the sink is they cut it at an angle here. And that angle allowed us to turn that piece that way, but now that corner's wrong. So originally what we discussed, this was a perfect even gap here before they cut it. Originally what we discussed was to take this piece and slide it here, which would keep this piece square to the wall, this piece square to that wall, and square to this piece. But that involved moving that piece over. And if you look at the end over here, it's hanging out past the wall. So originally in this kitchen with this piece of granite, it ended up falling right about here. But because we turned at an angle, it pushed this piece out. So what needs to happen, or what needed to happen, was this piece needed to be slid over here, which does mean the sink needs to move about a little bit less than a ½ inch or a little bit more than a ½ inch, I can't remember. The reason they didn't want to do that is because it's up against the cabinet. So my offer was, I will do the sink. I'll take it out, I'll put it back in, I'll cut the cabinet, that's fine. All I wanted was for the granite to fall like it was supposed to. But when I was explaining it to him, I guess it was the language barrier, or he wasn't on the same page with me, but he didn't understand that. I needed this piece to be moved, so he decided that he was going to cut the other piece instead. I believe it's because it was easier. One last thing, if you take your finger and you go underneath here, and underneath here, you can tell there's more gap here than there is there, which again falls into that gap right here. So I hope this video helps. I'm sorry that we're having these troubles. I'm really trying to be respectful and understanding, but I don't know what happened. I don't understand why it couldn't have just been pushed in square like we needed it to. I guess just because it was more difficult to do it that way, and we were trying to find a different solution, but I don't know, we are where we are. I hope we can work something out together, because I mean, you can see it from here. It's cut at an angle, and that didn't used to be. It used to be nice and square.